All right, welcome everyone to the May 6th open session of tonight's City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, we have a roll call.
We certainly do. Councilmember Keldorf.
Here.
Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Boyles.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldino.
Here.
And Mayor Pimentel.
Here. Thank you, everyone. And if you join us and please rise, Father Alexi, please provide the invocation.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let us pray. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, we ask your blessings this evening on the members of our City Council who have been called to lead our community. Remind us all that they are not only leaders, but also civil servants, and that it is their responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Remind them that everyone is our neighbor, our sibling, and that throughout the ages, the prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least of those among us, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in mind, in body, and spirit, and all those on the margins of life, those who are alone, those who are forgotten. Grant them and us the wisdom and the courage to know and to do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and the spirit of love. And this we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold to be good and right and true. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Keldorf, and Father Alexi, thank you as always. We have 3 special presentations today. First, Councilmember Drew, if you'd like to take us out.
All right. Proclamation, City of El Segundo, California, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of El Segundo. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation drainage systems, water supply and water treatment and distribution system, sanitary sewer collection system, solid waste collection system, maintenance of public buildings and other structures, and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in City of El Segundo to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas this year, 2025, marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, Be It Now. Now, therefore, the Mayor and members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, hereby designate the week of May 18th to 24, 2025, as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life. And accepting this, Elias Sassoon.
Well, on behalf of Public Works, I'd like to extend my appreciation and gratitude to the City Council and to the City Manager for all your support. And I appreciate that very, very much. You guys want to say a few words?
No, I did that last year.
No, they expect you to say a few words this time.
No.
You're probably better prepared than me. Hey there. So I'm Anthony Esparza. I'm your utility superintendent. This is Jesse Pedroza, your water division supervisor. Mr. Patrick Graham, street maintenance lead worker. And Ron Griffin, your mechanic shop superintendent. That's a mouthful. So thank you all. Thanks for your recognition.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go try to get as far back as we can. A little bit further, Mr. Elias? A little bit further back, if you could? There we go, there we go. A little bit further back, there we go. Okay. I see everybody, I don't see the names. Okay, here we go. Here we go, a couple of photos. Here we go, one, and one more. Thank you so much.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I have the honor of reading this proclamation for the 2025 El Segundo Older American of the Year, and this year it is Bob Moda. All right. Whereas on May 2025 is National Older Americans Month, a time set aside annually to commemorate and celebrate the significant contributions of older Americans have made to the community of El Segundo. And whereas El Segundo is committed to valuing all individuals and recognizing their ongoing life achievements, and whereas older Americans possess and share a wealth of experience, background, and history, making them one of the city's most treasured and enduring resources, and whereas older Americans are available, capable, and enthusiastic to provide volunteer services that contribute to a coordinated community-based system of social, emotional, physical well-being of not only other seniors, but the community at large, thus an important part of the ties that bind both family and community. And whereas recognizing the success of community elders encourages their ongoing participation and further accomplishments, and whereas Bob Moda was nominated by his peers as the 2025 El Segundo Older American of the Year, a recognition which identifies, inspires, and promotes community involvement and a spirit of giving back to others through volunteerism and community engagement. Now, therefore, on this 6th day of May 2025, the mayor and members of City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older Americans Month, and Bob Moda as the 2025 El Segundo Older American of the Year. And we hereby recognize that an Elder Fest celebration will be Saturday, May 17th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Joslin Center to recognize all seniors who have given generously of their time and talent to improve the quality of life for all in El Segundo. So, Mr. Ryan Delgado from our Parks Department has a few words, and hopefully we'll hear from Mr. Moda himself.
Yes. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us. This one's another special one to me. I first met Bob when I was 13 years old and made the transition from El Segundo Little League to our Babe Ruth. And my fondest baseball memories are down at that Babe Ruth field. Still with my friends to this day, we have Oaks jokes and, celebrating our different many accomplishments on the field. But most what I take away from that is my 15-year-old year when we had our All-Star run. I got to be one of Bob's players. He was our All-Star coach. And the time he took to pull that group, you know, we were a little rambunctious group and very different personalities, but he pulled it together. And we went to the regionals. Unfortunately, we lost out to Hawaii. But a couple years later, you know, Bob took them to Indiana and won a World Series. And when I think of what I have and those memories from that, there's thousands of kids that have those same memories. Bob's been involved with Babe Ruth since the 80s, and you start, you know, 12 players a team, 6 teams, year after year. That's thousands and thousands of people. And, you know, in my truck, I still have the beads hanging from our regional tournament against Hawaii and when we did our gifts exchange, and so I'm always grateful to Bob for that. The other capacity I've got to know Bob is our recreation commissioner. He's been an extra El Segundo employee for over 20 years in that role. His knowledge, insight, and, you know, the other day they were discussing trees and he starts bringing up surface roots and different pieces like that. He is a knowledgeable asset to the city, vital to recreation and what we do, and the guidance he's provided is beyond appreciated, and I'm just happy to bring him up here and introduce him.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pimentel, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino, and Council. I'm honored to stand here tonight as the El Segundo Older American of the Year. Totally surprised, had no idea. It's great. I believe that staying engaged by volunteering, offering time and ideas, has helped me flip the script on aging, which is the theme this year. I would like to thank you for this tremendous honor. And just as important, I'd like to thank my family for supporting me and doing what I love. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
In case one doesn't come out.
And we have a special guest this evening. Superintendent, would you like to give us a schools update?
Good evening, Mayor Pimentel. There we go. Mayor Pro Tem Baldino, members of council. Very happy to be here tonight on behalf of the school district. I'd like to start off by thanking a very, very special person who's gone above and beyond for El Segundo to find facility space for us, whether it be field usage, our tennis courts, thank you, and also our school, Arena High School most recently, supporting us in every which way. Finding a space for the Arena High School kids was crucial, and it was a creative space. So I just really want to give a big shout out to Ali Mancini, who I brought flowers for. They were for you, actually. Yeah. Thank you. We super appreciate you. So just, you know, I'm almost a year in here, and I just really appreciate the relationship that we have with the city and the level of collaboration. You know, for the Run for Education, the city like literally shuts down the whole city on behalf of education, so thank you for that. So I'm overwhelmed by just the spirit of collaboration support from the city. It really is unique, I mean, because I'm from somewhere else. And just how the city goes above and beyond in order to support us is greatly appreciated and special. So, as a token of our gratitude for council, I have brought you gifts. So, it's a personalized jersey. Look at that. Pimentel. Yeah, you like that? Okay. It's very fitted. It's a legit jersey. So, gentlemen,
There's
you
elastic in there, right?
the gun show comes out with these. Take it from me. So, if I may approach the dais and present you with your gift. I hope you enjoy. You mean like we just, again, just a token of our gratitude. We appreciate you as a partnership, and you are very much part of the team. So thank you. Yeah.
I have the vapors. Oh, yeah, should we do a photo of the jerseys? Come on.
Yeah.
That looks great. That looks great. All right, here we go. Couple of photos here. Here we go. That looks great. That is so cool. All right, thank you so much.
You get a little warm in those things.
I feel like that was a passive-aggressive act of cruelty. Try it on. Not here. Not here.
Well played, Superintendent, well played.
Why is he sweating so much? With that, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments this
Yes,
evening?
Mr. Mayor, we do. We have two, one of which is related to an agenda item. And
Very well.
five-
Let's do with that one. 5 minutes on the
5
agendized item, 4 minutes on the non-agendized.
Terrific. I would like to invite Eric Kennis, please, to come and speak.
Good evening, Mayor Pimentel, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino, and the rest of the council members. My name's Eric Kennis on behalf of my wife. A little nervous. I can play soccer professionally in front of thousands of people. I get in front of 10 people, I'm nervous. Thank you so much for the time. So I'm addressing the agenda item D16 in regards to a new after-school program proposal with the Rec and Park Department. My wife and I have 3 kids in this community. We have a business in the community. We live in the community, so many of you I know. It's the first time I've been at this meeting. I had the opportunity to meet Susan Truex for the first time tonight, and she gently gave me a hug, which calmed my nerves. So I could use another hug, Susan, but I'll wait. So we just had a couple questions. We've went into contract with the city a year ago. We're in our 3rd year of our business, the Family Wellness Studio. We started on Main Street, and we moved over to the city in the clubhouse, and we started an after-school program last year with you guys at the city. So our anticipation is looking at, in curiosity, what this new program entails. We look at our partnership or contract with the city very seriously. We really enjoy the opportunity to work with so many people throughout the recreation and parks. So I guess we're just here to kind of address some of our concerns or just understanding what this new program looks like. Certainly you guys are looking at potentially approving it and what the budget looks like, where that funding comes from if it is approved. So there's just a couple of things that we look at both as parents, as business owners, and really community members. We started 3 years ago because we believed in what deficits our community had, and our business now is just addressing childcare, good quality childcare, enrichment programs. We pick up the 2 elementary schools, walk them to the park. We provide an hour enrichment on top of, kind of free play and structured play. And that's been a big part of what we do as a family. My wife's a family therapist, so she designed the program based on the needs that we've seen from having a 14-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old. Someone told me that would keep me young, so I decided to have a young child, and she's very much part of the program as well, just because she's there. I guess I do apologize for my dress code. I did come straight from there. The kids say, Mr. Eric, when you wear a suit and we see you, we can't call you Mr. Eric anymore. So I had to honor the kids and kind of continue to dress the way I dress today. So looking at the program, I promised Susan I would keep an eye on the clock. We are curious how that program, if it was approved, how that would affect our program. Are you running parallel and dual programs? How would that look to the community as far as marketing the programs? What do those programs entail? How does our community make choices that benefit them? Is there, I think we could all agree that there is definitely need for supporting and being very aware of the next generations and the young children. And I know through my experience with the city, you guys don't do anything lightly. You look at things very intently and structure things for our community. So regardless of the outcome, I have faith and believing in this community. It's just curious, on, as you peel it back, what is the deficit? Is it deficit in the quality of care? Is it a deficit in numbers? Are parents, in particular after COVID, going back to work? How is that structured? How are we supporting them? That's something we look at our business. Is that need still there? Is the need going to grow? Can we support another program within the city? So if it's approved, we're in a year contract. What does that look like as the school year ends, and what does it look like as the school year begins? There's competition in the market, whether you have TLC or Hilltop or some other programs that have started. I don't know their numbers. I don't know fully their programs. I only can speak to ours. One of the things, as we were made aware of it, we talked about a partnership looking at a little bit deeper at our relationship with the city, something we offered, not just to run 2 programs, but to look at how we could even further that partnership. I don't know if that's on the table, but that's something that I feel honored when I talk about running a program through the city. And that's something we want to keep doing. We just don't know what that's going to look like, and so that's why I'm here tonight. Obviously, there would be potentially internal competition as families choose what are the price points, what are their value systems within their home to help them make choices. And what does that look like if we're both running programs? I think that's the biggest unknown today. So that's kind of what I want to address. And at the end of the day, thank you guys so much. I moved here years ago, and this is what I call home. I don't see going anywhere else, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kinnis.
May I please invite Michelle Leach?
Hi. Thank you, Mayor Pimentel and council members. I'm not here for an agenda item, but I wanted to first thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I was fortunate to attend all the candidate forums at the last election, and I thought the one at the high school was especially strong. I thought the kids really asked compelling questions. I'm sure you guys remember that. And I thought Mr. Gass did a really good job moderating the debate, if you will. But one question in particular stood out to me, and I just wanted to remind you guys of it, is what could the city council do to help students and college students get internships and jobs after they, or while they're in college or after they graduate? And at the time, I know all the candidates kind of spoke out and thought that was a really good idea and said, they would look into like how they could aid that. As a parent of a 21-year-old college student, and I know a lot of you guys have college-age kids, and my child has applied to over 50 internships, no luck. And I can just tell you that this issue is very real. It's really difficult to find internships, but it's very important for these kids to get real-world experience and build their resumes. And we have this incredible talent pool of kids that have graduated El Segundo High School, and they're, just really prepared for jobs and internships. And since we live in a community with all these incredible businesses and innovative businesses that are looking into tapping into a strong talent pool, would there be an opportunity for us to help them look internal, look at the community instead of going outside of El Segundo? So not only do we want to be business friendly, but we want to encourage them to be, you know, good stewards to our community as well. These students are hungry for meaningful opportunities that give them real world experience and will help them build their qualifications to get into their door after they graduate. So I'd like you to consider ways that you could possibly help bridge that gap, whether it's creating city-sponsored job fairs or providing introductions for these kids, or just simply creating opportunities for these kids to know of opportunities that are available. So in colleges, they have this thing called handshakes where you can go online and you can see, you know, jobs that are available where companies of alumni and stuff, they post jobs. I'm wondering if there's some opportunity that could happen here. I actually looked on GPT before I came here and said, are there cities that have done this successfully? And it immediately spit out like 10 or 15 cities that have programs like this that have worked. So maybe there's something out there that we could model it against. But I just wanted to implore you to look at that. It was definitely a question that, you know, at the time I thought, oh gosh, that's really interesting. But now that I'm sitting in the throes of it, I think it's really something that would benefit our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Council comments or questions? We have no more public comments, right?
That is correct.
Council, questions, comments? I just got a quick one for you, Eric. Don't have to get up. How many kids are in your program?
Full-time, 8 right now.
8, and what ages?
Focus primarily on TK through 3rd grade.
Got it. City Manager.
Just a few comments. Mayor, as Mr. Kennis described, there is an item on the agenda tonight, item 16, that our Recreation, Parks, and Library Director, Ms. Mancini, will present. And I also believe you have spoken with Mr. Kennis, and so maybe you can share some of that conversation. Ms. Leach, great ideas, and I know that perfect to have the school superintendent tonight to hear that. So I think between him and I, maybe we can open up a dialogue. We also have a city school subcommittee where we bring new ideas and thoughts and programs, and maybe we can agendize this for a future meeting. So thank you for that.
And that meeting's tomorrow at 5. I said so.
Yeah, we're actually talking about that.
Anything further?
No.
All right, we do Hyperion stuff at the end?
Yes.
Got it. All right, I will entertain a procedural motion to read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only.
So moved.
And Pimentel second, Drew on the first. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. All right, consent. Any polls, council? This takes us items 4 through 12. Whoa.
Motion to approve. I didn't hear any polls.
Somebody's hungry. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's Boyles on the first, Pimentel on the second. No abstentions, no opposed. So we are 5-0. On the consent agenda, item 13 is a public hearing. All right, there's a time and place hereto fixed for a public meeting. Item 13 is an ordinance amending the El Segundo Municipal Code, Title 15, Chapter 4 for the residential zones to amend the development standards for the single-family residential zone, including the standards applicable to the 2-unit residential developments and urban lot splits pursuant to Senate Bill number 450. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Proper notice was given in a timely manner.
Has any written communication been received regarding the public hearing?
No written communication has been received.
Very well. The public hearing is now open. Mr. Samaras, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. The item before you tonight is a municipal code amendment to ensure compliance with the recent Senate Bill SB 450, which relates to urban lot split developments. I'll go over some quick background and then go through a description of the ordinance for you. Great. In 2021, in late 2021, the state passed Senate Bill SB 9, which is a bill that required cities to permit subdivisions of R1 lots into 2 lots and to allow the development of each new lot with up to 2 dwelling units. The law at the time allowed cities to adopt objective standards for regulating these subdivisions and 2-unit developments, and it provided some parameters for cities to set local standards for their regulation. Just a few months after that law came into effect, the city adopted its local standards for these types of ministerial subdivisions and 2-unit developments. And I'll use the term urban lot splits a lot just to keep it simple for the presentation. One of the concerns addressed in the city's new regulations for urban lot splits was that additional density in the R1 zone would affect the architecture of buildings and the neighborhood character. So the city included some design and architectural standards for urban lot split developments that do not apply generally in the R1 zone. And that was the status up to late last year when the state adopted a new law, this time SB 450, which significantly changed the regulation of urban lot splits again. The bill prohibits objective standards for urban lot splits that do not apply uniformly within the underlying zone. So urban lot splits must have the same standards as any other development in the R1 zone unless they are less restrictive, meaning they make it easier for urban lot splits to be developed. The intent here by the legislature was clearly to prevent cities from discouraging urban lot splits and those developments. So to prepare an ordinance that complies with the new state law, we would need to compare the city's current urban lot split regulations with the R1 standards, identify standards that are inconsistent with the R1 zone standards and state law, and then determine which of these standards to apply uniformly in the R1 zone, which ones to eliminate or modify. And in the next few slides, I will identify some of those inconsistencies between R1 and urban lot split standards, along with how the draft ordinance and what the Planning Commission recommended to help resolve those inconsistencies. So we'll go through a number of those standards here for you. Starting with building height standards, the urban lot split standard is more restrictive than the R1 standard. So it requires a flat 26-foot building height requirement, regardless of the type of roof design. But the current R1 zone standard allows for increased height for those buildings that have pitched roofs. The intent clearly behind that is to encourage the use of pitched roofs in homes, which is a traditional style, and it's consistent with the city's R1 zone character. This ordinance and the Planning Commission's recommendation would be to apply the R1 zone standard uniformly, including for urban lot split developments. Moving on to the next standard. Front yard setbacks. The R1 zone today requires a flat minimum of 22 feet in the front yard, whereas the urban lot split standard has the same standard but allows for an exception. The same exception existed in the R1 zone up until a few years ago when we did a sort of a major update to the R1 zone regulations and the municipal code in general, just to kind of help streamline things, and that exception was removed. It was in 2023. So for the purpose of being consistent, the Planning Commission recommends in the draft ordinance to apply that R1 zone standard uniformly. Related to the front yards, the front yard permitted encroachments. The R1 zone today permits 5 specific types of encroachments into the front yard. It is essentially an incentive for homes to have a front porch or veranda in the front. The urban lot split language on encroachments is kind of outdated. It refers to the old R1 standards before that 2023 code cleanup. So in this case, the ordinance would apply the newer and simpler R1 standard uniformly. Kind of related to the front porch, in this case, actually, this is an example of a standard that today applies only for the urban lot splits properties. Today, urban lot splits are actually required to have a front porch along the street frontage. That was kind of a standard included to kind of help maintain some architectural character for these dense developments that we were expecting to have. In this particular case, the Planning Commission and the ordinance before you recommend removing this requirement for a front porch and simply maintaining the existing encroachment provisions that incentivize porches and verandas instead of requiring them. Side yard setbacks. Setbacks are a special case because SB 450 sets a specific limit on the city's authority, which states that the city cannot require a minimum side setback larger than 4 feet for urban lot splits. The rest of the R1 today requires a minimum setback of 10% of the width of the lot for wider lots and a flat setback of 3 feet for narrower lots. The Planning Commission, in this case, and the ordinance as drafted would apply the R1 standard, the 10% of the width of the lot, but just set a cap on the minimum setback that we can require for urban lot splits at 4 feet to make it consistent with the state law. So this is an example where we're allowing for a slightly easier standard to meet for urban lot splits. The Planning Commission felt that there is value in continuing to require a slightly wider setback in the rest of the R1 zone. Floor area. This particular standard can be a little confusing, so I'll just go slow, and I'll be happy to take questions on this either now or later. The R1 and the urban lot split standards share an overall FAR maximum of 60% of the lot for those lots that are wider than 25 feet. For those lots that are 25 feet wide or less, the R1 zone has a lot coverage requirement that ranges from 40 to 47%, and those narrower lots on the urban lot split situation have no FAR or coverage requirement. Instead of that, the urban lot splits regulations actually have a per unit maximum size, which is actually more restrictive than our R1 regulations and not consistent with the state law. So that would have to be eliminated. So the Planning Commission's recommendation in this case to kind of match things up and resolve the inconsistencies are to maintain that 60% FAR limit for wide lots, eliminate that minimum or maximum unit size for urban lot splits, maintain the no limit in FAR or coverage for those narrow lots in the urban lot split situation. And just taking advantage of this particular situation, we in the Planning Commission recommended kind of simplifying the lot coverage requirement for the narrow lots in the R1 zone and simply require a 47% coverage rather than that range that depends on the heights of the buildings on the property. Just a way to simplify the code. Related to mass and bulk and maximum floor areas, both the urban lot split regulations and the R1 zone have a second floor sort of maximum percentage. The urban lot split standard is a little bit more restrictive than the current R1 zone standard, which gives a little bit more flexibility to the design of a building. So the Planning Commission in this case recommended applying the R1 zone standard uniformly. That's for the second level. related to mass and bulk again. This has to do with the location of garages in the front part of the property. The R1 zone has a required step back for garages that are in the front part of the property of 2 feet from the face of the building of the residence. The urban lot split actually requires a bigger step back. So in this case, that standard is, again, more restrictive, and the Planning Commission's recommendation in this case, and in the ordinance, we would apply the R1 standard uniformly. Building separation, the next standard. In the R1 zone, we require a minimum distance of 3 feet between buildings. The urban lot split regulations require 4. So again, because of that inconsistency, because the urban lot split standard is more restrictive, the recommendation in the ordinance is to apply the R1 standard uniformly. And that's kind of a pattern. We've used the R1 standards in many cases for these standards. The next standard deals with entry orientation. Now, this is one of the standards that gets more into the architectural style or design. The urban lot split regulations require one of the entries to actually face and be visible from the street. And the R1 currently does not have such a standard, so the requirement is more restrictive. The objective of this standard is to have some common design features in homes, such as a front-facing entry, and that, in a sense, helps preserve that R1 neighborhood character and provides a connection between a house and the street front. And so in this particular case, the commission recommended actually applying this standard, the urban lot split standard, uniformly throughout the R1 zone, but allow for an exception so that if somebody has a porch in the front and their door happens to face the side, they can still do that. Landscaping requirements. The R1 zone has a requirement for a sort of a minimum percentage of the front yard area to be landscaped, and with a combination of different materials. But the urban lot split regulations are specifically require trees to be planted in the front yard in conjunction with the construction of new dwelling units. So in this case, the recommendation is to sort of combine the requirements, apply the R1 zone percentage requirement for landscaping in the front yard uniformly, but add the urban lot split requirement for a tree to be planted in the front yard. In this case, the standard would require 1 tree to be planted in the front yard for new primary dwelling unit construction.
Paul, does it require a certain size?
It says specifically a 24-inch box.
Okay.
The next standard has to do with driveways. The R1 zone requires a minimum of 10 feet in width and allows a maximum of 20 to 28, depending on the width of the lot. The urban lot split regulations have a maximum of 10 feet, which is much more restrictive than the R1 zone. The Planning Commission and staff recommended applying the R1 zone standard for driveways uniformly. Alley access. This standard is related to alley access requirement. The R1 zone requires vehicles to access the property from the alley whenever there's an alley present in the back of the lot. The urban lot split standard allows for an exception to this requirement. This exception was also part of the R1 zone before we did our zoning code cleanup a couple of years ago, and it was removed at that time just to kind of simplify the standards. So the Planning Commission and staff recommend applying the R1 zone standard again uniformly to the urban lot splits as well. And we're almost done. There's a couple more slides, I think, or one more slide. Affordability. In the urban lot split regulations only, the code currently requires at least one of the units that is built on one of these urban lot splits to be affordable, to be reserved for households that have moderate or lower incomes. That is inconsistent with state law today, so the recommendation is to remove that and apply that uniformly. That is the last standard that I had to go over. There are a few other miscellaneous changes that are just kind of improving on current language in the code, but that is essentially it. That concludes our presentation. And we recommend the council hold a public hearing on the item, waive the first reading of the ordinance, and schedule a second reading for your next regularly scheduled meeting. And I'll be happy to take questions.
The public hearing is now open for public input. Are there any public comments? Council questions before we close the public hearing and move to discussion?
What, is there a new state law that precludes affordability? I didn't follow that last point on the last slide.
Yeah, it doesn't preclude it, but you have to apply it uniformly to all R1 properties if you're going to require it at all.
Well, one question on the building separation. Is there a reason why in the general R1 we wouldn't require a minimum building separation?
The R1
It's
does
3 feet.
require a separation of 3 feet, yes.
For
Min 3,
lots
max
over
4.
25, no minimum distance, lots, oh no, that's the urban lot, sorry. Minimum distance, okay, so in both scenarios, there's a minimum distance of 3 feet.
For the R1 zone, but for the urban lot splits,
It was.
currently it reads 4.
Right.
So we'd have to kind of
Okay.
match those up.
Sorry, I'm thinking if there's one house I get a question about all the time on Oregon, where the roofs are touching.
Oh,
We can talk about that later.
yeah. That's also an issue of building code and fire requirements, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably, there's that non-conforming one that's over on Hillcrest too, right? That they wanted to redo the kitchen, but they couldn't because they'd lose their pre-existing non-conforming. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Sure, so moved.
Baldino on the first,
Second.
Giroux on the second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. No opposed, no abstentions. Council discussion.
I watched the planning commission meeting on this, and it was interesting that the real bone of contention was the 24-inch box tree. And at first I was like, what's Mark's deal against trees? Like, why doesn't he like trees? But now that I think about it, are we going to mandate not only that you plant a tree when you build a house, but it has to be 24 box and must be planted and maintained in the front yard? And maybe this is not a big deal when it comes to final inspections in the city, looking at you, Mr. Allen. But I'm also cognizant of people's right to kind of build your front yard as you want. And let's recall, the reason we're doing this is SB 9 came out, and cities were quick to adopt some objective standards on how to make sure that if someone was going to subdivide your R1, you didn't destroy the residential feel of a neighborhood. And so we hired an architect who came up with these great design ideas, and we picked the ones we liked. And then Sacramento said, no, if you're going to do it for the subdivisions, you have to do it for your entire R1. So I can be persuaded either way on the box tree, but right now I'm leaning towards maybe less is more. And I think just having the minimum percentage of landscaping is probably sufficient without mandating someone has to plant a tree of a certain size in the front yard. But I can be persuaded.
Does it persuade you if I would tell you that our first conversation was 2 24-inch box trees?
No. No, it's just more of, philosophically, like, how much does the city want to dictate what your front yard is going to look like? I get that we want landscaping. I like the idea of a front vestibule or porch, so it looks like a neighborhood and it's not some box. But, not everybody's a tree guy.
Can I ask what a box tree is?
It's pre-planted, so you can't put like a sampling, it comes like a 24-inch box, and it's 24-inch box, and it's got a tree.
No, just a tree in a box, like
Tree in
an
a
actual
box.
tree.
You go to the
Oh.
nursery, you
2
buy a
feet
tree
by
in the
2
box, you put the box in the ground, you maintain it, you irrigate it.
It was dropped several times as a child.
Sometimes the answer is in the name.
I will not. Yeah, what's the other thing? Don't.
So
don't prove
I am
people you're a fool. But
fine with all the recommendations provided by the planning commission. I get the law is what it is and it makes sense. I just don't know if there's even an issue here with the box tree, or if I'm just splitting hairs at this point.
Any thoughts on turrets?
Opposed.
Having
7
had
for
to
turrets.
plant a tree in my front lawn that's dying or on the public right of way, I'm with you. I think they should be able to do what they want. I don't think we should impose a tree requirement. But what is landscaping anyway? Because there's so many, how are we defining landscaping nowadays?
In the
Because I
code-
see many varieties. Drought resistant could be gravel or DS, whatever that acronym is, or it could be, succulents. What constitutes landscaping?
It says on page 95, just from the ordinance, landscaping that contains a combination of lawn, trees, vines, bushes, and ground cover, and does not include hardscape materials for lots less than 50 feet in width.
So we're not enforcing that now. We have lots in town that are definitely more narrow than that have hardscaping or just not much green, anything, which I'm not opposed to. I just think we should be consistent whatever we do.
Yeah, well, there's a percentage requirement. It's not supposed to be the entire front yard, so there's a percentage of 25 and 35%, depending on the lot width. But generally, it's green space. If it's green, then it meets the requirement, whether it's succulent or it's another type of planting.
I mean, I liked the idea of a tree when it first came around. And right, the original intention was urban lot splits, densification. How do you kind of combat that aesthetically? So the urban lot split had two 24-inch box trees, which in retrospect was maybe a little limiting, maybe triggered some state housing flags to begin with. So in the conversation, it was, well, do you go back to the R1 standard, which is nothing, or do we stick with this idea of trying to encourage landscaping where possible and continue to make this look like a mature city versus, master planned community? That was the thought behind it. I know how sad everybody gets when we take down a tree, so adding additional. I'm with you. I know those houses too that are 100% rock landscaping. So it's to combat that to some degree as well. But who's enforcing it? If you're not building new construction, I'm not quite sure.
Right, this would only be new construction
Right.
going forward. If you're legally non-conforming, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Trees die. My tree is dying. They're hard to maintain. You don't have irrigation. I say kill the tree requirement. As much as I love trees, we're doing everything we can to keep our tree alive on the
You
public
plant the
right
wrong
of way.
one, it destroys the sewage pipe, and then you fight with the city over where it destroyed the sewage pipe.
So I just have one question.
Okay, please.
Is the idea, again, I did not watch the planning commission meeting, but was part of the concept on this to be putting a requirement suggested as a result of what we're facing? I'm trying to put this in a delicate way.
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case, I'm in favor of what the planning commission recommended. Because I'm assuming they did a lot more research on this than I have. And as I'm looking at this, there's a reason why that was suggested. I agree that the two might have been too much, but there's a reason why. And my guess, without them being here, is as a result of what we're facing from Sacramento.
Yes, as being on the planning commission when these standards were originally done, the whole goal was to how do we prevent someone from tearing down a single family home and putting up 4 boxes. The biggest stick there was probably to make one affordable. And if you're gonna subdivide, then 2 on a lot, you're gonna make 2 of them affordable because now we're meeting our affordability needs as opposed to some developer just making a quick buck. So the tree was a part of that. And now the conversation is, do we extend that to all of the R1 and burden everyone, or not do that? So I guess that's the issue is A, do you consider it to be a burden? And B, do you think it should be imposed throughout the R1 zone?
I guess the reason why we're doing this is because we basically have to have a one-size-fits-all, right? We can't have 2 different sets of rules.
Correct.
And as a result, I think that the suggestion was made in order to curb the inevitable issue that we may have going forward.
Okay.
That's all. So that's why I get why it was there, and I would go with the commission's recommendation.
So we're at a 2-2 if I'm counting tea leaves here.
Does Pimentel like trees or not? Is what
we're
it's
gonna
gonna come
find
down
out.
to.
I think I just showed my tree knowledge a few moments ago. I'm still digesting. In my head, I had a tree growing boxes. Look, so tree, no tree, Councilmember Boyles, no tree.
Tree,
So-
no tree, tree.
That leaves you,
Wait,
Lorax.
are you a tree or
I'm a
no
tree.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Trees.
I
She's being
originated,
reasonable with
I
one
might
tree.
have accidentally originated the tree idea to begin with.
Yeah, look, I said, let's do it with the tree. And if people don't like the tree after they build their new house and they want to change their tree to something else, then, I'm sure the non-code enforcement person we have, well, we'll sing.
Just do it on a
You
weekend.
like that? You think I haven't gotten over that? We'll show up and write them a citation. So I say tree. That makes the trees whole. Have it 3-2 on our informal non-vote. May I have a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
I'll second. Oh, no, you're introducing it.
Yeah, we're just introducing.
Sorry.
We just have a motion to introduce. So
Bill
be it
Bennett.
introduces.
Yeah.
Mayor, an ordinance amending Elsa Gunner Municipal Code Title 15, Zoning Code Chapter 4 to amend the development standards applicable to the single-family residential zone, including the standards applicable to two-unit residential developments and urban lot splits pursuant to Senate Bill Number 450 has been introduced and will be brought back to your next regularly scheduled council meeting for potential adoption.
So the second reading will be on May 20th, and then we'll vote at that time. And if there's any change of hearts on trees, we can address them. All right. Moving on to item 14, which is also a public hearing. Slightly different one. There's a time and place here fixed for a public hearing for item 14, an ordinance amending the El Segundo Municipal Code Title 15, Chapter 32 to establish a fee deferral program to adjust the deadline of development impact fee payments prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy or final inspection, associated resolution. City Clerk, was proper notice of
Yes,
the hearing
sir.
given in a timely
It
manner?
Most certainly was.
Have we received any public communication?
We have not.
Director Allen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. Tonight before you, as was just read, is a consideration of a building permit fee and development impact fee deferral program. It'll require 2 actions tonight, but to explain a little bit of how we got here through the 2 actions, one of which is an ordinance amendment, the other which is just a resolution to give some policy direction, but it memorializes that policy direction. Staff is being responsive to, and this is nothing new, but the overall economic uncertainty that developers face, high lending costs, inflation, and the gamut of things that are being thrown at our construction industry, and particularly new developments. So one of those ideas has resulted in tonight's item, but in addition to tonight's item, there are a couple other items that the council has already taken action on earlier this year through another effort. Both Ali Mancini and myself brought before an item for the cultural development program, where we suggested several changes to that program to adjust the timing of when the cultural development program fee could be paid, or the art could be installed, or even the configuration of payment with art, to build in flexibility for developers who are going through that process. In addition to that, earlier this year in February, Paul brought forward another item related specifically to housing as a response to state legislation that requires cities to allow the deferral of development impact fees specifically for housing projects. And so in the spirit of some of these efforts to eliminate, or I should say, lighten the burden of the fees that developers face or developments face, we're not looking to waive any fees or exempt any fees or reduce the fees in any way. We're asking for an ability to defer the fees specifically to development impact fees and building permit fees related to any commercial construction. So we've already dealt with residential as it relates to development impact fees. So tonight's ask is specifically looking at deferring the building permit fees that are intended for long-term plans, so not the fees that are related to immediate services that are provided, like the inspections or the cost of the permitting system or any other administrative costs. And we're asking to defer the development impact fees, other one-time impact fees that are more associated with long-term capital improvement projects that do not happen immediately when a project obtains their building permits. And so these are, the two different fees are structured in that the development impact fees are an ordinance. It's a zone text amendment. That is language in the zoning code that stipulates when the development impact fees are paid. The resolution that's before you is just the administrative process allowing the director, city attorney, and city manager to work together to develop an agreement that would allow developers or applicants to defer the building permit issuance fees that are not directly related to the immediate services provided. And so those are the two asks tonight. Let's see, let's skip ahead. So specifically, and we just changed this for Paul's item earlier this year for residential projects. So we've just seen this and we're tweaking it a little bit again. The modification to the ordinance is going to essentially generalize when fees can be paid, and then generalize number 2 and 3 under separate agreement, the allowance of deferral of fees for residential and allow of deferral of fees for commercial. And then the resolution will also essentially authorize the building permit issuance fees that are not directly tied to the immediate city services or staff processing time, and development impact fees that are typically associated with future ongoing cost post-construction, item number B. And so with that, I'm here to answer any questions, but this is, I think, the second time that we've come before the council, so hopefully that's not the first time we're hearing this. Ultimately, we're hoping that this is, an effort to implement several measures in the city council strategic plan. We're also hopeful that this will help trigger developments or folks that are holding on because they're waiting for better financing options. And so we're hopeful that this is going to incentivize developers to get shovels in the ground sooner rather than later. With that, happy to answer any questions.
The public hearing is now open for public input. Is there any public comment? Council questions, not discussion, questions?
Mr. Allen, this is great. How many cities are doing this in LA County?
So there are several cities that allow the deferral of the development impact fee. That's not uncommon, but I could not find any other cities in LA or Orange County that allow the deferral of building permit issuance fees. I don't know of any. Doesn't mean they're not out there. I just couldn't find any. I was looking for some, so we didn't have to create the wheel again. But deferral of impact fees is pretty common, but building permit fees is hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's significant, really impressive, something we could boast about, assuming it goes forward. I guess the question would be, what kind of size are we talking about? So like PCT, PCC, what would be their permit fees, roughly?
Yeah, I don't know that project because I don't know the valuation, but I have done sort of back of the napkin.
Figure that one's like 250 million or something.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but I did do the Beach Cities Media Campus just to have an example, and in talks with ownership there to see if there's any intrigue with this, and so the permit fees, both the cultural development program fee, building permit fees, and the development impact fees, we were talking about $1.5 million in total. So the ability to defer that till later on in the project is a significant gain.
And sometimes too, I think there's implied risk, right? Because you might not get the green light on your project. That might be sunk costs you never get back. So you're also saving developers potential risk, which I think, right? Unless I'm misunderstanding this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
More questions, or should we close the public hearing? Motion to close public hearing?
Sure, so moved.
Baldino so moved.
Second.
Giroux on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Council discussion.
Well, now I have a question.
You can still ask a question. I have many.
Why don't you walk us through the fail-safes to make sure that even though it's deferred, we definitely know we're going to get paid, because you're not going to get, what, certificate of occupancy? What is it?
Yeah, and it's a good point, Mayor Pro Tem, and it also came up during the Planning Commission meeting. We're lucky to have another attorney on the commission to ask good, challenging questions, and I think it's an important distinction. When I was before the council beforehand, there was a suggestion of filing a lien against the property. We got some concerned feedback about that. It's not a straightforward process. It is a difficult process to go forward with, and so We opted to leave that part out of the language of the ordinance itself. There's always an option when we don't have compliance from a code enforcement standpoint, or in this case, occupancy, we always have the option of filing liens through our legal action and legal recourse. I think the biggest lever is probably holding on occupancy. Most of the projects that are going to be exercising this tool are going to be heavily invested in getting a tenant in there. And if they can't get that tenant in there, if they cannot get their final inspections and can't get their final certificate of occupancy, they're carrying the cost now of the daily loss of not being able to get a tenant in there. So that's the biggest lever that we have probably. Of course, there's always legal actions that we can take, which we could do at any time anyhow.
But with the certificate of occupancy, the idea is you can build it, but if you don't pay your fees, you don't get that piece of paper that allows people to actually go inside your new building.
That's right. You can't move in.
I would think that would be enough leverage to make people pay, right?
It usually is. It is today. We use it all the time today,
Sure.
even without this program, yeah.
I'm going to jump in, though. Isn't a bit of the concern with the size and scale of these projects, this isn't going to be a one-off person. If it's a major developer with a major company, I mean, you can sort of see how this plays out on the ground, right? We're like, why are you guys holding this up? Our project had a massive overrun. We had construction delays. There was bad weather. There was a fire. There's an earthquake. Let us move in, and we promise to pay sometime in the future. I mean, I can see this playing out problematically in real terms because the size of the developments that would be impacted are really, if we have a $250 million housing development that's going to knock out 15% of our RENA number, and they can't scrape together $1.5 million yet for the permit fee, are we really going to pump the brakes on that? I mean, we might, but when we have a room full of sobbing people saying it's 20% affordable, why would you let us move in?
Legally, I don't think you can waive that at all or let them issue it because it would be a gift of public funds at that point.
I mean, I may agree that we are right and whatnot, but
I mean, that would be a crime.
there's plenty of things that go on that I disagree
No,
with,
I mean,
but there's
it'd be a
people
crime. It might be a
establish
crime by
facts on the
Mr.
ground all
Allen
the
and
time.
whoever else is involved.
I mean,
by-
people can establish facts on the ground. Let's say they all just run into the building. We've got people, yelling and screaming in here.
Oh, you mean if somebody just occupies it without the permit?
100%.
Oh, well.
You think that, I mean, that happens. We have businesses going in and getting their TCO,
Yeah.
right, while they've still got, you open the door, and there's people sitting there typing away. I mean,
Where? There, I mean, while Mark maybe ponders on it, there are scenarios where we negotiate TCOs for, partial occupancy. We also work with them to barricade and close certain portions, fire corridors, ensure access and egress. There are scenarios where we do that. This probably would not be one of those scenarios because in all the cases leading up till now, everything else is ready to go. All fees are paid, and we're able to do that and ensure life safety. And so that's not uncommon, at least in El Segundo. It's something that sets us apart from a lot of other jurisdictions is this ability to work with developers and builders to negotiate that. I don't think that would be the scenario.
yeah, no, I
in
mean,
this
it's great. It's reasonably easy when we're talking about the number of fire extinguishers, right? I mean, it's reasonably easy. That's sort of what makes us us. But when we're shaking some guy down who has no money left and just scraped over a building, my concern is that we go asking for $1 million and he's going to say, I'll give you 2 cheeseburgers, on Tuesday or whatever. Just give me a minute. And we never get the money.
I mean, taking two different kinds of examples, commercial side, usually there's a commercial construction lender involved. And to take that construction lender out and take that into a regular finance loan, they're gonna wanna see that certificate of occupancy to get out of the construction loan. Same thing on the residential side, in order to get that unit sold to whoever's buying it, if it's a for sale unit, they're gonna wanna see a certificate of occupancy by the lender to get that. And on that side, there's actually some flexibility. We can do those on a per unit basis as they get occupied and get sold. So, I've seen this in other places, and I've not run into the problem that you're describing. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, I've just not seen it happen, and I think the likelihood's low, but I'm not gonna say it's non-existent.
Look, again, this is not your wheelhouse, his wheelhouse, your wheelhouse on this. I just want to prevent us from having a room full of people banging a drum, telling us we're bad guys because we waived a fee and then couldn't recover it later.
I have had in residential situations where the the developer, for whatever reason, it may not be money, it might be that they haven't completed some portion of the project that requires for the C of O, and people want to move in, and yeah, that can happen, but, and that might not just be money, that could be not doing some life safety issues.
Yeah. Other council comments besides mine?
No, I'm comfortable with
Catastrophizing?
withholding a certificate of occupancy. I think that's, especially when you're dealing with financing, that's just a mandatory piece of it that you have to get for completion for any real function of a building. So hopefully it'll work. I think it's a good idea. It's a good plan, and it's, you know, hopefully helps spur more development. That's what we're trying to do.
All right, if no further council commentary, City Attorney, will you read the ordinance by title only?
Mayor and council, an ordinance amending El Segundo Municipal Code Title 15 to establish a fee deferral program to adjust the deadline of development impact fee payments to prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy or final inspection is ready for introduction.
I'll introduce. We're going to introduce, we'll waive the first reading, and we'll be back on May 20th, 2025 for the second reading. Is that right?
Correct. And the next is a resolution to establish.
Councilmember Boyles.
Next is a resolution to establish a fee deferral program to adjust the deadline of certain building permit fee payments to prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy or final inspection is ready for adoption.
I'll move adoption.
Second.
All in favor of adopting the resolution establishing the fee deferral program?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, 5-0. All right, success. Item 15, the results of the 2025 resident and business survey regarding satisfaction with city services. Deputy City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This evening I'm presenting the results of the community surveys, which includes a resident survey and a business survey with slightly different questions geared toward those audiences. This is the 8th year that we've done this survey. The purpose is it aligns with our strategic plan, goal 3, regarding customer service. And year over year, we've used this feedback to determine what we need to emphasize or de-emphasize in our strategic planning process and budgeting process. Objectives, overall satisfaction with city services, obviously. One of the questions is the net promoter question, which is the how likely are you to recommend the city of El Segundo. We also have other attribute questions that I'll get into in a minute. And then we utilize the feedback to improve city services. So this year we sent the survey out to 6,431 residents and businesses. 1,277 completed their response, and that's a response rate of about 20%, which is a 2% increase over last year. Breaking it down between resident and business, 3,457 sent to residents. We had a 25.3% response rate from the residents. Business was a 13.6% response rate. So what is the Net Promoter Score? Net Promoter, it goes from negative 100 to 100, so getting a score of 30, 40 isn't like getting a 30 out of 100. So the great range is 30 to 70. Excellent is 70 and above. Residents, 60% were promoters, 14 were detractors. To get the Net Promoter Score, you simply subtract promoters from detractors. Our resident Net Promoter Score this year was 46, which falls in the great range. And so looking at the 8-year comparison, you see that the first year was really our highest year, but it does hover in the mid 40s to low 50s. This year was the same as last year at 46. This is a little bit more telling, this bar graph. You can see that it's pretty consistent. We're getting a little bit of growth in detractors, maybe 1 or 2%, and then the neutrals are about the same at 26, 27% year over year. So if you look at that for 2025, 86% of people are either neutral or promoters, and 14% are detractors. So resident detractor concerns, issues related to odor, air quality, Hyperion, some mention of Chevron and LAX. The airport's loud, that kind of comment. High cost of living, better outreach for seniors, so printing in some cases, not social media. And then parking is always a concern. So many good comments. You know, a lot of our residents really love this community. They love the work the city's doing. I won't go through all these, but the small town atmosphere, the police response, very happy with police and fire. They feel safe here. It's just a great environment to live. So we got a lot of really positive responses there. So then the attribute rankings, residents were asked to give a 1 to 5 score for the following attributes. Maintenance and upkeep of rec and park facilities, rec park programs offered, the library, how are police and fire doing, city infrastructure, streets, sidewalks, et cetera, billing, and then overall vision of city council. And there's that Likert scale, it's called, but gives you the idea of, you know, what the various numbers within the 1 to 5 range mean. We're generally, well, almost always either satisfied or very satisfied. So here are the answers that we got for this this year, and then you'll see the 8-year comparison. Every year, I'm trying to see if there's any exception. Yeah, every year, the responsiveness, knowledge, and competency of fire and paramedic services is number 1. And then following just a close second, availability and responsiveness of police department services. And then it goes down. So the next one in that hierarchy is public library, and then maintenance of the rec and park facilities, and then quality of rec park programs offered. So these are all on the right where you see the gray color, they're satisfied. The green color is very satisfied. And then the final question in the survey is, have you seen improvement over the last year? So for residents, the mean score was 3.31, which means no improvement, about the same. Okay, so getting into businesses. Businesses, we had 66% promoters and 11% detractors. Our net promoter score is 54.46. I just threw the 0.46 in there because it almost could have been rounded up to 55, or 54.46. And that falls also in the great range. So you see, I don't know, that first year is very low, but generally we're in the 50 range. High 40s, low 50s. 54 is a 2% increase over last year. Happy to see that. And again, you see the trend over time that 88% of our businesses, people who work here, own a business here, are either passive, just okay, you know, no issue, or promoters. They love it. They love doing business in El Segundo. So what were the concerns of the detractors? So those who scored in that detractor range, we looked at their comments. The survey prompts them to ask, to give a little more information, you know, when you give a negative response. So communication with property owners that don't live in El Segundo, I guess getting in contact with people who own property here but maybe don't live in the city. Maintenance of public grounds and infrastructure within the vicinity of businesses, support for struggling businesses. They mentioned specifically the late fee charged to when you don't renew your business license on time. The commercial auto insurance for teachers, that requirement in our contracts came up a few times. Concerns about crime, homelessness in the area, and then parking. Parking is in every single one of them. Positive, just love El Segundo, great business climate. Dedicated employees that know their business, which I like to see that. Has proven to be a safe community to do business in, clean, vibrant downtown, family friendly, the small town charm, great amenities. And then we get into business attribute rankings. So these are a little bit different than the resident attribute rankings, although similar. Knowledge and competence, responsiveness, knowledge and competency of working with community development, city zoning policies. So do we have the right zoning in the right areas? business development and attraction policies, availability and responsiveness of police department services, and then the fire department question, and then business license renewal process. How easy is it to get your business license and to renew it every year? Again, that Likert model. All right, so here we see that every year almost, and I guess I need to thank finance for that, and Dino and Paul, business license renewal process is the #1 thing that people recognize as very satisfied. Fire department, the second one is actually the police department, and then followed by the fire department. Knowledge of community development, very satisfied there. High score, business development and attraction, satisfied there. And city zoning policies, also satisfied. And the final question on the business, as it was on the resident survey, overall, have we improved year over year? And this score shows that the businesses feel the city has made some improvement over the past year. Not significant, but some. So in conclusion, the resident net promoter stayed about the same. Businesses increased by 2 points. The business license renewal process and the responsiveness, knowledge, and competency of fire and paramedic services, as well as police services, were high-scoring attributes for police and residents. Improved parking came up quite a bit. Business license taxes, there were some comments of it being too high. They didn't like the tax increase. Fees, water costs too high. Public safety in general was a concern for the business community. Some members of the business community. Air quality, noise, parking are concerns for residents. And businesses felt the city had some improvement, and residents felt that it was about the same. No improvement, no decrease. And that concludes my presentation on the community survey. So this evening, asking council to receive and file the survey, and also asking for direction on completing the survey again next year.
Do we have consensus to receive and file?
Yes.
We do. All right, council discussion.
How do we get more surveys in residents' hands? Can you talk about, so I would assume email is if you have somebody's email on file because they've already engaged with the city to some degree, and then, but we're not mailing to every resident then as well.
So the way we do that is the water billing database that we have. People provide their email addresses there. So we email to all of those who have provided email addresses. We do a little campaign about, if we don't have your email address, sign up here, and it's just a short form name, email address. So we get more recipients there, and then we actually do, for those people who have a water bill, who we don't have an email for, we actually mail to their homes with a stamped envelope for them to return the survey. So those are the 3 ways that we try to get the residents to be more engaged.
Okay. So
yeah, and we got I think, what was it, a 25?
The response rate, I think, is great.
Yeah, it is. It just...
3,400 surveys. I don't know. How many adult residents do we have in El Segundo?
About 8,000.
8,000?
Mega big.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always want to try to get more. Yeah, there you go.
With the response rate we get, there's about a 2.5% margin of error in there. And my thought process is, since we've kind of plateaued on the results, 49, 46, if we do this again next year, why would we expect a different result? And maybe should we consider doing this every other year? When we have we know parking's an issue. I don't need a survey to tell us people are concerned about parking. I think this is a good tool. I am curious if this is a tool we need to use every year to send this out to get the same responses back.
Oh, here we go.
No, actually, not what you expect. No, look, yes, I brought this idea forth in 2017. I could kill the baby. No, it's really about, I think the intent was also, Mayor Pro Tem, is when we rolled this out, and I don't know, honestly, where we're at with this, but it was also about at the transaction level. So a Net Promoter Score really done well is not just a survey you send out annually. I've used it in my business for 18 years. It's also at the transaction level, wherever our residents or businesses interact with the city, what is your experience? Just like if you leave your car dealership, how is your service? 1 through 10, how likely are you to recommend this business to your friends and family? That's the intent, not a static survey. Because when you do a static survey, to your point, you just think of like the thing that's on your mind. Well, I know parking sucks every day. And as opposed to how is that experience that you had? And we talked about rolling it out in our most customer intensive area, which is planning. I don't know if we've gotten there. Maybe we have, but to me, this mechanism, if you will, would be better served if it was per interaction on a more regular. Like in our business, we look at this every single month, and our managers are bonus to this. But this, I agree, is a little bit kind of stale and static when you're looking at it once a year. But yeah, so anyway, that's my thought.
I think it's telling a few items, telling certainly how much all things Hyperion weigh on the experience of people here. I mean, not just from the odor piece, but sewage billing we can't control, right? I mean, well, any water billing we can't control. We're just the bad guy, right? Pass this along. So the fact that it's just such a negative experience for people and it weighs on their overall impression of the city is understandable, if disappointing. I think with the oncoming risk manager, that appropriately doing our insurance policies and how we discriminate amongst the groups, we should be able to address that item on there. Certainly public safety, issues on safety probably predate the drastically improving crime numbers. So I would suspect the next time we do the survey, we'd see an improvement there. And with our Smoky Hollow parking improvement that's coming, we'll see some happier faces on the parking around there. I'm amenable to doing it every other year. I mean, we can do it every year too. I think to your point, we're likely to see within the margin of error if we do it every year.
Right.
I agree. I think we could do it less frequently. What do we have in place? We're using we have the app, report it.
Qualtrics.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Qualtrics.
No, I'm thinking of the reported app. Like, I feel better getting
Elsgana
rid of
Connect?
this or doing it less frequently. I think as long as we have a really good, what am I trying to say here? A good means for our residents or businesses to voice a concern and get a quick response rather than having to email us. And I'm not opposed to getting emails. We all respond. We get 5 emails, and each one of us, I'm guessing, responds to the same constituent. That will probably always happen. But if we had a easier way, and maybe we have it, I'm not familiar. We do.
Elsgana Connect.
Do what kind of adoption are we getting? Other than,
I don't have it.
like parking. Parking's an issue. So a guy on my block pulls me up and walks to the house like, hey, do you live around here? Can you do anything about the parking situation? I was like, let me explain the parking permit program to you and who to contact. But I don't know how many people are actually using that as a way to get their needs addressed, questions answered, is all I'm saying.
Right.
So I don't have an answer for it. I'm just suggesting we should take the friction out of it, make it as easy as possible for people to get what they need. And maybe we're doing it, I don't know. Doesn't feel like.
I mean, if we could use the app, you could ask them to take the survey after they've reported service, but you could always just have on here, take our customer satisfaction survey. That way, if I'm going through something and I had a good interaction or a bad interaction, I might be motivated to be like, let me tell you a couple things, right? But when I've been pushing this on a lot of people, when they're like, hey, come look at my driveway. I'm like, hey, there's an app for that.
Yeah. Great.
You fill out your email, they're gonna contact you when you submit it, so you know that someone's working on it. And then they're gonna contact you when they come out, and then you'll have resolution, and you don't have to ask me about it anymore.
Yeah. No, I think when we started
it
this
is
in
useful.
2017, there was no app.
Yeah.
We had no mechanism for people to provide feedback to the city. Now there is an app. We could do something like that, a question following service within Elsgana Connect. I'm seeing year over year pretty static results.
Why don't we try it in the app? Or if you've got a QR code, you can have it at any public service desk if they want to take a survey and then come back after a year and see if we've got anything worth talking about. If we want to go back to the typical survey we've been doing, we always have that option. But I'd like to see something different and maybe less responses that are more focused might be beneficial for us as opposed to kind of a wide net that people say, yeah, things are good.
So we are going to direct the staff to conduct the 2027 survey and fiscal year 26-27, as well as.
Well, I would take it baby steps. I would say let's see if they can do this survey more at the point of sale, to Drew's point, right? This year, can we gather information through the app? Can we gather it as opposed to one survey a year? Then come back and report on us. At that point, we say, you know, we're not getting the information, then we can give direction. Next year, go back to the static survey or tweak what we're doing now. We have a
So
little
we're
more
going to direct
flexibility.
staff for 2026 to do it as a continuous.
To try to
manner.
integrate it into the El Segundo
the
Connect app and at points of service within the city to the extent possible. Don't kill yourselves, but the QR code.
So is
can
that a
go long
motion?
way. As clear as I can make it, my
Okay.
idea/motion is
Any
not
objection to
do-
directing staff to do that? Okay. We don't need to approve anything,
that a
right? We just
second?
direct. We're directing.
Okay,
Consider
thank you.
yourself so directed.
Thank you.
Thanks for moving.
I think we both directed and alternately discussed at the same time. That just,
Never happened.
there we go.
I just told Kelsey to use the app when she asked me who would clean up the
I don't know what we directed there. Item 16, proposed city after-school program, Club Cowabunga, and associated budget. Director Mancini,
Yes. All right.
redolent of flowers. Here you go.
Yes, that was very lovely. And just a note on that, I want to thank Superintendent Johnson, but also it has been really wonderful working with the district, and I feel like we've gotten a lot accomplished since we got that joint use agreement signed. So, yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you. All right, moving on. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pimentel, Mayor Pro Tem Baldino, and members of the City Council. Staff are excited to be before you this evening to share a proposal for a new program for your consideration for the upcoming fiscal year 25-26, the Club Cowabunga After School Program. The City of El Segundo, as you know, has been hosting successful out-of-school programs for many years. Summer day camps, winter break day camps, spring break day camps, and one-day camps have historically been provided by the Recreation Parks and Library staff and have been very well attended by El Segundo residents, many of your own children going through the program. With many households in El Segundo having two working parents, the need for out-of-school childcare continues to be a priority for our residents. Currently, there are multiple out-of-school care service providers offering after-school programs, including the district and their TLC program, New City Church, Hilltop Church. We've got the Family Wellness Center and some others around town. However, despite these services, staff believes that there remains a need for additional out-of-school care options for working parents. So over the past few years since I started as the director in the department, I have been approached many times by residents inquiring about why the city does not host an after-school program for youth. Providing these services, in addition to typical summer day camp offerings, is often a key component of recreational programming in municipalities. Additionally, out-of-school care programs continue to be one of the most significant ways that recreation departments can generate revenue to support other highly subsidized programs, such as Learn to Swim programs. Camp Cowabunga is our incredibly popular summer day camp program. It's a well-known brand in the community, and residents feel a sense of connection to the department, as is evidenced by the consistently high participation we see not only in Cowabunga, but across all of our program offerings. Simply put, I believe our staff are experts in providing out-of-school programs for El Segundo youth. The proposed after-school program would operate out of the Gordon Clubhouse, which is just a short walking distance from both Richmond Street and Center Street schools. The students would utilize the tri-room at the clubhouse, which is conveniently located in very close proximity, as you know, to playgrounds, open green space, sports courts, a kitchen, and an auditorium. Each of these spaces provide additional amenities for staff to conduct a wide variety of after-school activities for kids, such as sports, cooking, and fine arts. Club Cowabunga would focus on offering wellness and recreation programming while helping children build social skills in a safe and supportive environment. Staff are proposing fees of $450 per month for residents and $550 per month for non-residents, which is similar to the fees being charged by the El Segundo Unified School District for their TLC program. An annual registration fee of $100 for residents and $120 for non-residents would be charged at the beginning of the program for the initial paperwork and registration and all of those sort of administrative tasks that would need to be handled by staff. Based on staff's estimates of serving between 30 and 40 students during the first year of operation, the program could generate between $67,000 and $97,000 for the general fund. A full detailed program budget is attached to the staff report for further information. Of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. So this slide here provides a sample schedule of activities that students would participate while attending Club Cowabunga. And the primary distinction for this program from many others offered in the community is that we would not be focusing on a homework completion component or extended educational activities. Focus here again in our program would be on social skills, getting kids outside to move their bodies, and offering opportunities for fun enrichment activities such as team building, cooking, and other recreational activities. So this concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to present or to answer any further questions if the council has any.
Council discussion, please.
Just confirming, this is for grades K through 5th?
Correct.
How many hours a month roughly would a kid be in this program? Is it like
Roughly 20 hours a week, 80 hours a
80
month.
hours, and it's how
Yes.
much?
$450.
Okay. How's that compare? Like, I haven't had a kid at that
We're
age
right
a
in
long
line
time.
with what the district's charging. We're a little lower than some of the other vendors in town, so I think the price point is right on.
And then, what's the idea behind the registration fee? Is that just a cost capture, or how much is really involved in registering?
Yeah, so
a
this
kid?
is very typical in a program like this. There is more paperwork that we collect at the beginning, but also the idea is to incentivize people staying in the program and not dropping in and out every month. So we would actually implement a policy wherein if a family, say, took off for the month of December because they didn't want to pay the fee, if they decided to come back in January, they have to repay that fee. And again, we really want this to be a program that's for parents who need the care on a consistent basis. Helps us with staffing when we know what the numbers are, helps the kids to have a consistent group, of children in their program. It's just much easier for us if we have that consistency in the attendance.
Having been a broke single father, Susan remembers, like you have a hardship or you have a family member coming in for a month, you're going to get hit with another $100.
Yeah, sure.
I struggle with the registration fee in general just because it feels like a unnecessary added fee, but I understand what you're trying to achieve.
Sure. And just as a reminder, too, we brought in a program to you recently, our recreation program scholarship. So we do have some funding available for students that are facing financial hardships. We certainly want to make this program accessible, which is why we priced it where we did. I think we could have probably charged a little bit more and would still get the kids, but we wanted this to be affordable and reasonable. And we think that we've kind of hit the sweet spot with this fee.
And there's pent-up demand, for sure?
Yes, we believe there is.
How many kids, what's the
demand.
goal? How many kids do you expect?
I would anticipate the first year between 30 to 40, just because getting the word out and getting people used to it. I would anticipate within the second year we would be completely full with 80 kids.
And are we cost neutral on this, or?
We're generating revenue.
Okay.
Yes.
And I can speak to that as having a little one a little more recently. I mean, the TLC wait list is extensive, right?
It kind of changed. It ebbs and flows. I think it ebbs and flows.
Yeah, it goes up and down.
It goes up and down. But the district's very supportive. We had brought this idea a year or two ago, and that wasn't the right time for the district for us to do this. But I did talk with Superintendent Johnson earlier this year, and they're in full support and feel like we've got enough kiddos to go around. Yes.
I just think it's important for us to continue to look for ways to creatively generate revenue, even if
Yes.
it's, tens of thousands, it all adds up. So, good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no objection. It sounds like with the size and scope of it, there is enough demand in the city that there is a vendor ecosystem that is engaged now and at the appropriate size. And what I suspect we'll see is these things will start to sort themselves out by age group, right? That there'll be some that cater to 3 to 6 and 7, and then some that want bigger kids that want to throw balls and all those sorts of things. So I would be sensitive on this to the demand side. I don't know, does it involve us hiring a tremendous number of people to administer the program?
No, only a few.
Only a
I mean,
few.
until we grow.
I mean, in success, right,
but
then
yes.
it becomes a sort of program. I know that we have had through specifically when people were working from home more, we had a lot of people banging on us to try and figure out a way to do something like this.
Right.
Just because there was excess demand. Okay. With that, would anyone like to move approval?
So moved.
Drew on the first,
I'll second it.
Keldorf on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council.
There we go. All right. Committees, commissions, and boards. City clerk, report. Anything?
It is my honor to announce that our Deputy City Clerk, Lily Sandoval, has been promoted to Assistant City Clerk effective May 3rd, 2025. And please join me on congratulating Lily on her career advancement with the city.
Congratulations.
All right, reports. Councilmember Keldorf.
Yes, thank you. I know you're probably tired of me talking about an ad hoc special events committee, but I feel like we've discussed it enough times that I just asked for it to be on the agenda so we could make some kind of move to make that a reality. The original idea was around the 2028 Olympics. I think your suggestion that it cover all major events. We have the Super Bowl coming up, 2026 World Cup. I'm not quite sure how we typically structure something like this. If it is for the entire duration through 2028, my suggestion would be that we have Planning Commission representation, Parks and Rec Commission representation, primarily because the first resident to talk to me about this idea was from the Parks and Rec Commission. And then in lack of or without an economic development subcommittee, I would envision that it's working with our city manager's office to create that as well. Perhaps invite somebody from EDAC to participate. And so discussion, comments, thoughts. I mean, the idea is that we actually put it in motion.
Yes, Barbara, can you kind of speak to this? I know this is kind of, these big event things is kind of what we've been talking about, yourself and Christina, is that, I mean, this is kind of your zone, right? Or has that changed now? I'm going back to when the Super Bowl was here and we did a few things, but I do believe it's necessary, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to say, how do we structure it so it's actually functional?
Productive. Agree.
Because the more we bring in, the less functional it becomes to those to the subcommittee, the ad hoc committee. So,
Right.
what are your suggestions?
That's the question I have too, is that I have heard it's more comprehensive than a hospitality and tourism marketing initiative around these big events, which we plan to do. But it's also traffic control, safety, parking, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no,
There's
and
a lot of
housing
different-
came up. I mean,
Yeah.
the idea of how we address either short-term rentals, making some adjustment to that. So there's
Right.
some policy around it as well. I think that will come up in conversation.
Right, so I would agree that it should be multi-departmental.
And I don't want
committee.
it to be onerous. I mean, it's not something that, that we need to do once a month, but there will now be quarterly LA planning conversations around this. So something that is perhaps tied to those quarterly. So we have representation there, and then it's brought back to discuss.
Can I make a suggestion that rather than this being sort of this amorphous deal that sucks into everyone because these social events or these special events will kind of touch all these things, maybe that is a bit of the work plan. So you have let's say it's I know you get signed up for everything, Barbara, but let's say Barbara and you, Councilmember Keldorf, on there, meeting one, you think through, okay, are we going to do whole home rentals? Meeting two is, what's the city of LA going to hit us up for on terms of transportation and security support? Item three is, how are we going to approach this with hospitality? Do our hotels need anything extra from us, or do they think they're going to be full to begin with? And then, you can get into the super interesting things, like, are we going to host an entire country's delegation? Some cities are going to host, New Zealand or something. Yeah, we find, a fan zone for a specific country, which I think would be super awesome. But, maybe that's part of the work plan, rather than be this huge task force that, okay, Public Works, what do you think for this, I don't know,
Yep.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, even just there's an arts and culture component, so, but those people don't need to your point, we don't need 10 people meeting on a regular basis. When that comes up, we can tap them into the conversation.
Yeah, really an item to just sort of structure our thoughts and come up with some courses of action that we need to address. Like the whole home rentals, I think is probably going to be the biggest piece, right? People are going to want to rent their house. And I think a lot of cities are getting ahead of that already. All right, any other discussion on that?
So, okay, so where are we at on it?
Oh, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to appoint Councilmember Keldorf as our ad hoc committee for the, for special events.
Is it a matter of figuring out what it should look like, the structure of it, and then reacting? Because I'm hearing there's 7, there's 6, there's 5. What is it? Because I'm looking at the subject matter and I'm going, you're not going to be able to get anything done because you have so many people involved and you have so many things you're trying to accomplish. So to your point, should it be maybe you meet first, figure out what the structure is of it, and then let's go, rather than kind of deciding tonight, okay, it's going to be 6 people?
That's the nice thing about the ad hoc, right? You just throw 2 people at it and they come back to the next meeting and say, hey, here are the 5 things we think we need to look at.
Well, I also want to be really careful because last time we did this, we got confused on the language of what people were supposed to be responsible for, and we thought we had people that were consulting that are now part of the actual ad hoc committee. So I'm trying to avoid a repeat of that. And let's just have, if you need a key 4 people, do it. But let's not have, well, it could be this person, it could be this department, it could be that department. Let's get down to it.
Could we make it even narrower and appoint Councilmember Keldorf, our special events
guru,
major domo?
I could do that. Ad hoc committee of 1.
Only
I mean, at least it'll never be a tie. It'll never be a tie. As long as the rules say it's got to be an even number. No, wait, odd number.
I think we can get by with Councilmember Keldorf, 1 planning commissioner, 1 parks commissioner, 3 people, and Barbara. I think that's a lean enough group. You've got your touching different various knowledge, wealths of knowledge, and 4 people hopefully won't get in each other's way, right? So that would be my suggestion. Keep it lean and mean. But I do like the idea of you guys kind of powwow and then coming back and saying, here's 5, 6 things we think maybe we can have a positive impact on.
Yep.
That'd be my suggestion. And thanks for volunteering.
Then happy to.
Can we pin a report back date on it?
Yeah, would you like us to come back to council with the proposed?
Like, here's what we're doing?
What the group is, who the group is comprised of, what kind of things we would be talking about within the committee, or?
Yeah, how much time do you think you need?
I'm available
Okay.
at your disposal. 2 meetings from now?
Yeah, 2 meetings from now.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
It's like Bill Richardson, right? Remember when we used to send him everywhere? Like, oh, Department of North Korea, send Bill Richardson. No one remembers that. Okay.
Nobody knows.
Troglodytes. All right.
He gets 1 win,
Oh, sorry.
1 win on the tree.
Madam Clerk. Oh,
Let's
do we have to do that for ad hoc?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to establish an ad hoc committee that's going to report, what did you say, the second meeting in June? First meeting in June. For, and appoint Councilmember Keldorf.
Boyles on the second.
All right, Pimentel on the first, Boyles on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining? Oh, voting for yourself. Look at you go. 5-0.
A win.
There you go. Take a win. Take
I'll
a win.
And my next item, I think we really covered yesterday, looking for a parks and phase 1 update on our parks renovation.
Yeah, do you want to summarize, or do you want me to summarize? Just because it's
Sure.
on the
We
agenda.
we have 100% submittal in, waiting on construction drawings. The timeline on that, August.
We have 100% the design development plans, but not 100% complete construction package. So the ball is in our court. We have received the 100% design development plans that are being reviewed by staff. And within a week or 2, we're going to be returning our comments back. The idea is to have the full package and come to the city council meeting for adoption of the plans and ask authorization to advertise the project in August of this year. August, hopefully not September, but August, September-ish. And then after that, we're going to be advertising the project for bids. As significant as this project is, we probably need to advertise this project a few weeks because 2 weeks is the minimum. I would suggest we do more than 2 weeks. And then by the time we come back to the city council and do the award and check all the licenses and everything, and then we're gonna be hitting holidays. So I expect the ground opening, the groundbreaking rather, sometime early spring of next year, with the construction to begin early next year. And by the following year, we'll be hopefully substantially complete. And by early summer, we should be full-fledged, ready to go open and enjoy the facility.
We will host World Cup viewing at the newly redesigned Teen Center.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna look beautiful. As I indicated, the design team is...
Which World Cup do you think? We started this thing in 2021.
I mean, he said open next summer.
Is it going to have an El Segundo sign on it?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. I dream a genie. If you're going to blink your eyes, we're going to have a teen center. It's going to be
other questions?
Make sure it's got an ADA ramp for me when I...
Yeah, that's part of the design. Thank you for reminding us.
We're going to be racing our gremlins up there, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bleak, you got me all excited with the special events, and now breaking ground at 2026. Elias?
I mean, that feels
Councilmember Giroux, give us some good news.
Tough one. I do have some good news. Actually, I just want to say congratulations to the El Segundo High School girls lacrosse team who won their quarterfinal CIF game tonight over at the high school.
That's great.
They will play the semis this Friday against either Palos Verdes or Huntington Beach. So that's, I think, the first time they've made it this far. And so it's in Division II, so it's a big deal for them. So congrats to them.
Congrats.
Councilor Boyles.
Follow that up with congrats to El Segundo boys lacrosse, first time ever beating Santa Monica this year. That was a huge win by a massive margin at their home field. And then they won their quarterfinals. Unfortunately, they lost to the semis, but they had a great run under Coach L, who's awesome. Got to figure out a way to get that guy paid more money. I know we need to talk about that. He's amazing. He's done a great job with lacrosse. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Last time I was here, I wanted to take a more active role in opposing housing bills. I wanted ad hoc. So what I did was instead I met with Senator Ben Allen's office to go over the housing bills. I have a list of the worst ones. I'm going to briefly describe how bad these are and just see if I can get consensus, just to do a formal letter from El Segundo saying, please don't make this dumb idea into a law. The first one is SB 79. This is from Assemblymember Wiener, no, Senator Wiener, and this is to allow high-density 7-story housing units next to land next to Metro with a very minor requirement for affordability. This is going to be approved over the counter. There's going to be no local hearing, no local input, and I would request that the city oppose this attempt, again by Sacramento, to strip us of any say in what gets built in our city. Have consensus on that?
I think it's easy, if anyone doesn't, double negative, if anyone objects to the motions to oppose, please, please raise your hand. I don't think you're going to get much.
Okay, thank you. Next is AB 647. This is from Assemblyman Gonzalez, and it's kind of like SB 9, except take anything, including an R1 zone, and put 8 units there. This is, again, without, this one's so great.
He's also the author of Measure A, or the sales tax sneaky bump that let Measure A go through.
Yeah, so any lot with a single-family home can have 8 or fewer units approved ministerially without discretionary review or hearing, providing they meet certain criterias. this would be devastating. So again, I ask for consensus. No objection. Thank you. A couple of other bills we've been monitoring. SB 634 is the Perez bill that wanted to undo grants pass, basically saying you couldn't enforce, any law if a person was experiencing homelessness. The mayor's, we've already sent a letter opposing. That has now been gutted, I am told, to where the only thing it's taking out, basically saying if you're experiencing homelessness, you can't enforce any law against that individual. And now it says the cities can't write any law that criminalizes someone trying to help someone who is experiencing homelessness. So that's been watered down, and we've already opposed that. There's another one, Senate Bill 789, which wanted to tax any vacant office spaces, $5 a square foot for being vacant, and then use that for like some type of home buyer program. I just read an article today that before that went to the subcommittee on Senate Revenue and Taxation, they took out the $5 tax, but they're still trying to make a bill that says that if you have a vacant building, you have to file an annual report with the California Department of Tax and Free Administration that discloses information on vacancies at their properties. And I feel like this is an unnecessary burden. No commercial tenant wants their building to be vacant. No one is profiting over having a vacant building. And I think even without the $5 tax, it's a terrible idea that we should oppose. Okay. The last one is SB 715, which is Ben Allen's, and I don't think we should oppose it yet. It is basically saying that if you're in a high-impact fire area, then you shouldn't be assessed your arena numbers if you're not safe to build there. The issue I have with it is he hasn't really determined where those arena numbers are going to go. There is a possibility that there could be some type of cap and trade about if you can't have it here, another city could do it. It sounds like what they're proposing is that it would just kind of go back in the hopper and get redistributed amongst everywhere else. So I'm going to continue to kind of monitor that one before we oppose our own Senator Allen's bill, and I'll report back if anything pops up on that.
I harped on this last one. I think we oppose it. I think it's egregiously unfair. Just because someone in Malibu is terrified someone's going to build an apartment complex, and those are his friends, that is just absolutely reprehensible. And for him to offload that on everyone else after opposing our previously well-intentioned cap and trades, I think it is just absolutely disingenuous, and I think we should oppose it.
I'm good with that.
Is he saying that the arena numbers go away, or that they're paused and frozen?
No, they're redistributed amongst
Right, but-
amongst the little people.
They would go back into the system to be allocated to the surrounding communities without a real definition of what a surrounding community would be or how that would work.
For the next cycle, or indefinitely? Unclear.
No, it means the units that Pacific would have to go in Pacific Palisades or Malibu instead would go
Right.
to Ventura or wherever,
I have a
someplace with
support
better
sheet.
without good sight lines.
Fact sheet if you want to read it. Yeah, I'm okay as it's currently written without having more information saying we're opposed. Any consensus on that, then I'm fine with that, Mayor.
If on your close reading as an attorney, you would rather we wait before I start hyperventilating, it's totally fine. I was going all pro wrestling. We want to wait on opposing that one, where Senator Allen.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll hold off on.
Okay, so thank you for that. And again, I to Councilmember Boyle's point, I talked with Cal Cities. I kind of reached out to the services we belong to and said, what are the worst of the worst? This is not all of them by any means. This is just the low-hanging fruit. And so I think whatever we can do to kind of be vocal, it's our obligation to do so. So thank you for indulging me with that. A couple of fun things. Let me see here. The Hometown Fair was this weekend. Thank you all, city staff, for showing up, bringing out the big toys for everyone to see. The water department was out there. The high school kids were rocking and rolling, selling burgers and ices. It was a great event. Thanks for those people who set up in the rain, kind of a theme, but thank you for that. On May 2nd, I attended an environmental subcommittee meeting and had a presentation from some interns who work for the Blue Butterfly Conservatory. They basically did a PowerPoint presentation explaining how they're working with Barbara Boland and her conservatory. Kevin Butler, who is the vice chair of environmental, was very instrumental in kind of showing them the ropes. I want to recognize these high school students. We have Jake Ruiz, Victor Vargas, Raymond Yi Sakuchi, Jaden Zani, and Hendrik Spear, who came to report about what they've learned from the conservatory. And the result was they planted 850 native plants covering about 0.31 acres. And they were the first ones to kind of have this internship, that everything, creating the logo, explaining to those who run the conservatory that not a lot of people are on Facebook, so maybe you should go to TikTok and these other things. So they've kind of set this up so that other high school students can also go and benefit from this. So I thought they did a great job with their presentation, and I'm thankful for that. And then I just also wanted to point out, I don't know if anyone else had the pleasure of reading the new Hyperion newsletter. It's got a different look. Hyperion is now our friend. I just want to point out this little box that talks about the fence line monitoring that they're bragging about, and they say AB 1216 update. It's not just a law, it's a good idea. So they're, you know, I guess they're leaning into it. They weren't really for this law, they opposed this law, we got it passed anyway. And it's just interesting the way they are now presenting their version of the facts. So it's, yeah, I thought that was entertaining. We have the Ed Gala coming up, and I believe the Firehouse is having open house this Saturday, so hope to see everyone in the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I know it's been a couple of weeks, so just a few things. I know I briefed the council on this earlier, but for everyone home, we'll be hosting our supervisory district here on Thursday for the meeting of all the mayors in District 2. We have a great relationship with our supervisory district, so elated to have them. That's going to be great. We had the tech breakfast, which was a gigantic success. Thank you to our economic development team. 3 new companies moving in. One really interesting counter drone company and 2 mining firms, one of which we're desperate to not already lose because they are doing so well. They just got about $25 million in funding and need a higher ceiling for their drill. As Councilmember Boyles knows, there's Reindustrialize America has a large event in Detroit where they rent the entire old train station. There's a subsidiary, Reindustrialize El Segundo, which those guys have one specifically for us. It's happening right now. It's a very small VC thing. I mean, I'd love to be invited. It sounds great, but they are doing something really fancy here with some of our innovators. So I think that speaks highly to where people are coming from. I attended a defense tech meeting in the same vein last night that was a part of the Milk Institute gathering, and those people were lined up to talk about El Segundo, which is just remarkable. Wells Fargo is doing innovation banking here now to be a part of this, bringing an enormous amount of capital to it. Techstars, all these people, it was fantastic. Just the number of people who were really interested in being in and around our area. There'll be a defense tech roundtable at Topgolf next week that we'll be invited to speak at the South Bay Aerospace Alliance. As a sort of corollary of the meeting today, we addressed some of the concerns about the pull of Colorado Springs and sort of the government, if the government would ever look to do satellite acquisition out of the Air Force Base out there instead of here. We don't view that as an immediate risk, but there is some concern that if Space Command goes from Colorado to Alabama, that the salve for that would be to take sort of the Space Systems Command piece and go to Colorado, which that's something that we would want to be alert to and make sure that our various congressional delegations understand. We attended the Homelessness Task Force meeting last week to talk about allocations from Measure A. That is not a cheery subject for us. We'll receive roughly about the same amount of support in the South Bay as we were previously. A lot of that will go to Redondo and places that have homelessness courts. We are unsurprisingly a donor when it comes to the reapportionment of that fund. We are still looking at seeing if we can use those funds to stock the pond for our housing trust. The verdict is still out on how much or what we can put into that. The San Gabriel Valley is having some success on their housing trust doing that. We got to meet the LA Rugby Club, which plays at UCLA, but is now a resident here in El Segundo. They've invited all of us to go to the game on the 10th. And they may do some events where they do like a series of drills or things in Rec Park or something just to show people what rugby looks like. They were a delight to meet, actually, and humanely sized. Look, I mean, that's a valid concern. I know what I was going to walk into. Mayor Pro Tem and I got to go to Mattel at the tail end of their toy showcase, which is spectacular and awesome, and they were great hosts. And it's just awesome. It's spectacular to see that stuff coming through. Fascinating as we sort of plumbed sort of the economics around importing toys, how much of the stuff they've already got here in preparation for even for the late season. But if you guys saw the news today, they are anticipating some tariff impact if they don't get some relief, because 20% of their stuff is made in significantly affected countries. Lieutenant Muir and I presented to the Building Managers Association on how El Segundo approaches homelessness and what the Patches program is and how we do it, because they are seeing an uptick in the Class A spaces being rented. And there was a little bit of like, hey, tell us what you guys do so we can talk principally to some of the other cities that were represented. We had a great hour discussion with them, and we'll be repeating that at the Realtor Breakfast on Thursday. Transportation Committee meets next week. Elias, I know you're excited to hear me ramble at that. Followed by Sanitation District, where I've been talking about grocer stuff with more monotone voice. Other than that, do be alert to changes that we have in our local economics. Layoffs are happening at some of our big players. We don't know if those are permanent or if they'll be moving around to different spots in our economy, but it's something that certainly, as a business-dependent city, we should be alert to. And with those 34 items, any questions, comments, concerns, we'll prepare to close the meeting. Unfortunately, we have 2 memoriams to read this evening. Councilmember Boyles, would you like to start, please?
So I can just do a quick.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
Hyperion
City Manager.
Your favorite report, right. I actually don't have, I have a report, but not on the odors this time, but on mosquitoes. We've received a handful of emails from residents adjacent to Hyperion that have seen an uptick in mosquitoes. We reached out to Vector Control, and in fact, we connected Vector Control with Hyperion. I guess the residents were having a hard time, or Hyperion said they were having a hard time, so we made sure that we made that connection. But we also have heard from Vector Control that they're extremely short-staffed and have not really done a full report on Hyperion for a while, so we're working with them on that. But Hyperion has been cooperative. They're walking around the plant. They're trying to see where and if these mosquito pods, I guess they're called, may be located at some of the equipment repairs that they've been doing. And they have pledged to take any measures that are necessary to eradicate the mosquitoes. So they are working with us, or working with Vector Control to see where on the plant the mosquitoes may be coming from.
Are they also checking the DWP easement under the power lines? I mean, there's certainly low ground in there. That's where we had coyotes in there for a while.
I think that, yes, we've directed them over there also. So, so we are working with them on that. There have been 27 odor complaints over the last couple of weeks, but no notice of violations. And then finally, speaking of the fence line monitoring, they did the annual maintenance on all of the monitor stations last week in April. And then they were taken offline for a while, so there may have been some bad readings, via the website. But each of the 3 stations experienced approximately 8 hours of downtime. But they have completely, worked on the maintenance of each of those monitoring stations. And then, as you said, the newsletter did come out, the March in the newsletter. That's the Hyperion report. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Boyles.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to read a memorial for a friend of mine who passed recently. And this actually was written from, or I should say by Damien Voss. Damien Voss worked for the city for a very long time, and Damien actually met Louis working in the city. They both had a fondness for the ocean, and growing up, my boys would surf with them and their kids, and I've seen Louis so many times, and Louis passed recently, so if you please entertain me with this. It's Luis H. de Mello was a son, brother, uncle, and dear friend to many. Born in Brazil on January 4th, 1956, he turned 69 this year. He came to the U.S. as a young boy and during the early loss of both of his parents. Through perseverance, he adapted to a new country, found a home, and ultimately thrived. He became a proud American citizen and found steady work with the city of El Segundo, a place he proudly called home. Louis began working with the City of El Segundo Street Department around 1984. Through years of dedication and hard work, he rose through the ranks to become a street supervisor. He served the city faithfully for about 25 years, 25 or 26, before achieving a long-held dream, retiring at the age of 50 in 2006. It was in California that Louis discovered his true passion, surfing. The ocean became his sanctuary. Whether it was Trestles, the Jetty, Malibu, or Mexico, he was known in every lineup, always charming strangers into lifelong friends. With his easy smile, love of languages, and boundless energy, he had a gift for connection. More than just a surfer, Louis was an adventurer and an athlete, running marathons, cycling the coast, and competing on the tennis court. Life brought Louis challenges, divorce, financial setbacks, but Louis never stopped paddling forward. He was the kind of friend who shared everything: waves, stories, laughter, even the quiet moments. His relationships were deep and real. Around a campfire with a glass of wine or on a beach just getting warm, Louis made space for others. Louis loved his family deeply, his roots in Brazil, his start in New York, the memory of a grandfather and a soccer-playing father who brought the family to America, and his devoted Catholic mother who instilled faith. His love for his siblings was constant and deep. Though his passing leaves many of us heartbroken and full of questions, we also carry peace. In his final year, Louis found faith and a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. We believe he is now in heaven, scoping out the best breaks, waiting for the day we'll paddle out together again. We love you, Louis. We miss you. We'll never forget the light you brought into this world, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about as well and served with them many times. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Shirley M. George, born Shirley Scaff, the mother of City Manager Darrell George, and a beloved member of the Worcester community, passed away peacefully on Monday, April 28, 2025, at the age of 90, surrounded by her devoted family. Shirley was born in Lowell, Mass., and she was the daughter of the late George and Naffy Scaff, born Bardwell. Her life was one of service, dedication, and compassion, especially for children. She worked for 13 years at the Mill Swan Head Start with children with disabilities and continued her passion for education as a teacher's assistant at the Worcester Public Schools at Rice Square and Roosevelt Elementary Schools. Shirley had a special ability to connect with students, so much so that she was often warmly greeted by former students wherever she went. A woman of strong faith and community involvement, Shirley was an active member of the St. George Orthodox Cathedral, singing in the choir and serving in the Women's Club. Her presence was felt not just in the classrooms or congregations, but in the hearts of her families. She found joy in hosting holidays filled with laughter and delicious food. And in her later years, she enjoyed coloring books, puzzles, crossword games, and reading her favorite magazine, People. Shirley's greatest pride was her family. She was predeceased by her beloved husband of 64 years, Ernest J. George, and is survived by her children, Darrell George of Long Beach, California, Eric George and his wife, Christine, and Kimberly Sasha and her husband, Phil, all of Worcester. She also leaves behind 7 cherished grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. Shirley George was a light to all who knew her, a devoted wife, a wonderful mother and grandmother, a teacher and a friend. Her impact on our community will long be remembered, and her legacy will live on in the lives of all of those she touched. Thank you, Darrell. We're adjourned.